Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for clicking on this video. I'm coming at you today with a brand new set of rankings for the week 4 of fantasy football. We're going to be doing the top 25 running backs today. Now, I do want to mention some injuries since we had a couple last week. These are pretty interesting scenarios because all of their backup running backs are really good and will get pretty much all of the work if they do end up playing. And so I'm basically just going to be ranking them together because I think regardless of where the starter is ranked, their backup in these situations are going to be almost the exact same. And those people are Dalvin Cook, Alexander Mattison, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. So I'm basically just going to be ranking those guys together. I hope that makes sense. But I do expect Cook and David Montgomery to actually play this week. I do think that Swift is going to miss some time, but I'm not a doctor, so do not quote me on that. We're just going to have to monitor that situation as the week goes on. All three of these guys are pretty much must starts anyways, regardless if you have their starter or backup. So it's not a huge deal because if you have them, you're basically playing them. But I wanted to put this disclaimer in before we get into it because I know people will get mad in the comments regardless. Anyways, drop a like on this video, comment if you got any questions, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. I got tons of content coming all year for you guys. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the rankings. So first up, I'm going to be having Saquon Barkley on here. He has really looked like his old self. He's the running back 2 on the year. He has the highest snap share of any running back in the NFL right now. And what is the big kicker right here is that his ACL injury seems to be a thing of the past. He looks like rookie year Saquon, and it's just unbelievable to see. The offense they're on is not very great, but specifically this week they're going up against Chicago, which is one of the 3 best matchups for all running backs, so he should absolutely dominate. I think he has a very good chance of being a top 3 back the rest of the season. After him, I'm going to have Jonathan Taylor, who I know some people have been a little bit disappointed on, but he's still getting absolutely elite workload. And as the offense plays together more, and now that Michael Pittman's back and healthy, they're going to be better, and that's going to just be better for Jonathan Taylor in general. The offensive line doesn't seem to be as good as it was last year, which is probably a reason why he's not performing at the same level, but he's still one of the best running backs in the NFL and one of the best fantasy options, so do not worry about him. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this first tier is Christian McCaffrey. This is another person that people have kind of been worried about. In general this year, the running backs have just really felt disappointing, and the only 2 really guys that have been consistent so far have been Saquon and Nick Chubb. But as we all know, Nick Chubb doesn't have that elite upside, just given that he doesn't catch passes, but regardless, he's still going to be a top 10 running back every single week. I'm not having him ranked here, but just thought I'd mention it since the overall position I just felt really disappointing. So don't worry too much if you feel like that. Everyone's feeling that way right now. CMC though has still been dominating without basically getting any receiving work, which is interesting because that's what he's known for. So if they can just figure out how to give him a couple passes a game, he can be back into like the number 1 running back conversation every single week. I think regardless, he's an elite option. Going up against Arizona this week, he should be just fine. I'm really hoping that they'll get him involved in the pass game. It should help out this offense a ton. But even just as a rusher on the ground, he's been absolutely dominant this year. So please just don't have any worries about him if you do. Moving on to tier 2, on my running back 4, I'm going to have Derrick Henry, who finally looked like himself last week. And what was really great to see was he actually got 5 receptions for 58 yards. If they continue to utilize him like that, I mean, he could easily be back in the conversation for the number 1 running back. We did see this a little bit last year before he got hurt. He was getting the most receiving work he had ever gotten. Hopefully they're starting to do that again this year because that will completely change how we view Derrick Henry. Going up against Indianapolis, a decent defense. They haven't been great, but they've also been missing pieces. I think that they'll be better, but I still wouldn't be worried about Derrick Henry. He's matchup proof for the most part, especially if they're going to be using him in the receiving game, and he is for sure matchup proof if that's the case. We'll have to see again if it continues this week, so stay tuned for that, but regardless, he's an elite option for everybody. Next up will be the aforementioned Nick Chubb, who is the running back 1 on the year. He's just absolutely dominated. Everyone kind of knows the situation with him, though. He doesn't catch passes, which limits his upside, but just given he's probably the best rusher in the entire NFL, he's an elite option, and just given the entire running back landscape, I think ranking him up in this area makes a lot of sense for right now. They're also playing the Atlanta Falcons, which has been pretty good against running backs. They just haven't really faced anyone super elite, and their pass defense is also terrible, so I think people have kind of just been taking advantage of them there. But a team like the Browns, who completely runs through their running backs, I think they're going to absolutely dominate this week. Nick Chubb, another elite option for y'all. Moving on to my running back 6 is my first duo. It's going to be Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. I think regardless of who's starting, you're going to be starting them as a top option. They're going up against New Orleans, which is a really tough defense, so I'm definitely worried about that. But these guys are both really good. I do think that Dalvin's going to play. He's suffered these shoulder injuries pretty much since high school, so I'm not too worried about it. He wore the same device that he's going to wear again this week last year, and last year when he had it on, he went for like 200 yards. yards. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm more worried about this matchup. That's why I have him ranked a little bit lower. I think Madison, he might not necessarily be the running back 6 if he's starting, but I think he's still going to be like a top 8 option. So regardless of who starts, you're starting them. Just make sure you do that. And the last guy that I'm going to have in this tier is Joe Mixon. He has probably been pretty disappointing for some people. I do think that he's a pretty good buy low candidate. The offense seemed to be better last week, which I think that most of us expected since they were playing the Jets, but definitely still good to see. And he is getting some of the most work in the entire NFL, top 5 in snap percentage at the running back position. And he's also been utilized in the passing game this year, which has been one of the big criticism for him throughout his entire career. So seeing that is nice now that the offense hopefully is better now and he's getting that elite workload. He should be another elite option, but if he continues to struggle like he has been, we're gonna obviously have to drop him some. He also had an injury last week, but it sounds like he's gonna be just fine, so I'm not too worried about it, but still monitor that. They're playing on Thursday night, so we'll know well before anyone else. If Samaje Perine for some reason does start, I mean, he would start if Joe Mixon sits. He's going to be like a back end running back too. Nothing I'm too excited about, but still playable if you need him. Moving on to the next tier, I have Leonard Fournette. He had another pretty disappointing week last week, but he's second in snap percentage at the running back position, only behind Saquon Barkley. So he's getting utilized like an elite workhorse running back, which he is. And the offense for Tampa has just not been very good because they've been missing basically all their weapons. They definitely get Mike Evans back this week, and we'll see about Chris Godwin and Julio Jones, but Mike Evans himself should make the offense better. And if the offense is better, Leonard Fournette is going to be better because it just opens up everything. They're also playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who it should be a pretty high scoring game. So there should be opportunity for him. All of those factors taken into consideration, I like him right around here at my running back 8. And onto my running back 9, one of the biggest worries in fantasy right now is Austin Eckler. He's going up against the Houston Texans, which has been one of the worst rush defenses in the entire NFL. So he definitely has opportunity to dominate here, but he hasn't really been utilized a lot in the run game. He's not getting the goal line work. He only had 4 rushing attempts last week, so there's plenty to be worried about. Overall, last week, though, the offense didn't look very good, and he's still getting a ton of work in the receiving game. He had like 8 receptions, so there's definitely still a floor there, but not having all of the work and the red zone work is taken away from his upside. And if he struggles against Houston, it's going to be time to hit the panic button. So I guess we'll have to see. I think he's going to be fine, but definitely keeping a close eye on this one. Moving on to my running back 10, I have the combination of DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. I do think that Swift is going to miss this week, but obviously I'm not sure about that at this time. Monitor that throughout the week. If not, Jamal Williams will be ranked right around here. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks, so they should have a good day on offense. The Lions are one of the best offenses in the NFL right now. I don't know if that's surprising. I guess it is coming into the season, but if you've watched them, I mean, they've been explosive this year. It's pretty crazy to see. But whoever is starting here, you want to start them. If Swift does play, he's probably going to be limited, so I'm definitely going to be worried about him, but he's just way too good of a talent to sit if he plays. And Jamal Williams would probably still be flex viable if Swift does play, but if Swift doesn't play, then Jamal Williams is going to be an absolute stud, and you're going to want to start him everywhere you got him. So stay tuned for that and start them accordingly as I just described. And then after them is going to be the combination of David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. We saw Herbert go absolutely crazy last week when David Montgomery went out, had 2 touchdowns, over 150 rushing yards, just absolutely dominated. And we had actually seen this a little bit last year on his rookie year when Montgomery went out, and it was a very similar situation to Cook and Madison, where we thought that Herbert might get work once Montgomery got back, but that just really wasn't the case. We're going to have to see how that happens again. I feel like they're going to want to give Khalil Herbert some work. I mean, they already were giving him a little bit before Montgomery got hurt, but we'll have to see how it really splits out. I do think Montgomery's going to play, and he will be the clear lead back if he does play, but it's definitely a situation we're going to want to monitor going forward. I do actually think if Khalil Herbert is a clear starter here and Montgomery doesn't play, he could actually be ranked higher than this. He might even be at the top of this tier because he showed he can dominate, and there'll be absolutely nobody to worry about taking any work away. So whichever one started here, you're going to want to start them. After them, I'm going to have Alvin Kamara ranked next. He had a bad week last week statistically wise, but workload wise, he got pretty much all the same work that we expect out of Alvin Kamara. And I think that he's still recovering from his rib injuries. So as it gets healthier and healthier throughout the year, I think he's just going to be better and better. I think he's another person who's an absolutely prime buy low candidate. So definitely look for that. He still seems to be the same person. So I'm not too worried about him, but we still want to see it on the field first before we rank him any higher. And the last person I'm going to have in this tier is Aaron Jones, ranked at my running back 13. Him and AJ Dillon both both struggled last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I think that most people are. They are one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. And I think here against New England, it's going to be a good time for a bounce back week. He kind of seems to be the main operator. Like the offense kind of runs through him. Romeo Doubs did look super good last week, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more involved, but hopefully that just opens it up more for him. Aaron Jones is still the clear lead back here compared to AJ Dillon, but they're both going to be very valuable for fantasy and probably starting in any lineup that you got them. Now moving on to the next tier, I have Javonte Williams ranked at the running back 14. Last week definitely worried me with him. With Javonte Williams, the whole idea with him was that he was part of this great offense, which the Denver Broncos absolutely have not been a great offense so far. And also that he was going to be the clear lead back, or if he wasn't, or if he was splitting work with Melvin Gordon, he would be getting most of the goal line work and basically all the receiving work. Well, last week, pretty much all of the third down work went to Mike Boone, which was very surprising, didn't really make any sense to me. And he was also splitting the goal line work with Melvin Gordon. So if they're going to be on a bad offense where he is splitting the goal line work and not getting the receiving work, I'm going to be super worried about him. That was only really 1 week though, so I don't want to fully believe that's what's going to happen, but I definitely want to monitor this as it goes along. He's just so talented that, I mean, when you watch him, he looks like he could break a play at any moment. One of the best tackle breakers in the entire NFL, and has a talent to be an absolutely elite running back. He just needs to get the opportunity, and the offense needs to get a little bit better. So I think that he's still a good option at the running back position, just given how good he is at football, but I can't really rank him as an elite running back given how he's being utilized right now. Now, a very different situation here is Najee Harris, who I have ranked next. He's playing the New York Jets, so he should have a good week this week. He hasn't looked great or been really great. There's been runs and stuff where he's looked like himself from last year, but there's been other times where he just looks like he's stuck in mud. So I don't really know what to make of it. He's still getting utilized as an elite running back, but not getting all of the work like he did last year. Jalen Warren's eating into it a little bit, which is a little bit worrisome, because part of the thing with Najee Harris is that you're getting basically all of the work in the backfield, and it doesn't matter what type of running back you are. If you're getting that much work, you're going to be great. And Najee Harris is a first round talent, so he should be elite, but right now he's just not getting that work, and the offense also isn't very good. So if one of those two things can change, he'll be ranked higher. But for right now, given how he's being utilized, how bad the offense is, I got him at like a high-end running back too, but kind of like a middle running back too. And the last person I have ranked in this tier is going to be James Robinson, one of the best steals of the draft. I mean, we got to completely reconsider how we look at Achilles injuries from here on out, just like we did with ACL injuries just a few years ago. I mean, James Robinson looks almost as good as he did the past 2 years. Not quite as explosive, but pretty much there. He looks way stronger. I mean, dude just looks like an absolute beast. He's the obvious clear lead back in this backfield. I might even have him ranked higher, but he's played the Philadelphia Eagles, which has been one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. So I'm a little bit worried about that matchup. I mean, he's just so good. It is crazy to see. I was completely wrong about this situation. I thought it was going to be Travis Etienne's backfield. James Robinson wasn't going to be the same James Robinson. I mean, I got to take an L on this one here. He's still that dude, so you got to play him as such. He'll probably be ranked even higher in future weeks, but just given this matchup, I got him ranked my running back 16, but somebody you're still probably playing in basically every lineup. On to the next tier, I'm going to have James Conner ranked here. He hasn't been very good either. The whole thing with James Conner is that their offense was supposed to be very good, and he'd be scoring all the touchdowns, which he's still the goal line back, and that is still going to be the case, but the offense just has not been very good right now, which in turn, he's not going to be very good. That's kind of how it goes. He doesn't have the ability anymore to completely change the game like that, but he's just going to be utilized in a way where he's going to get most of the volume there. And as the offense gets better throughout the year, which I do think it will, since they're missing a lot of pieces and they're getting more back, and once DeAndre Hopkins gets back, I bet this offense just opens up, and that should be very helpful for James Conner. But for right now, we kind of got to rank him around here. Going up against Carolina, though, not a defense I'm really scared of, so he should be just fine, but I don't have really high expectations for like an explosion game or anything like that anytime soon. Next up ranked, I'm going to have Cordero Patterson. He has looked unbelievable to start this year, which that's kind of what I expected, but he's still been even better than I thought he would be to start the year. And it's really interesting because the whole thing with him is that he was a wide receiver, so he'd be great in the passing game, but he's barely even being utilized in the passing game and just dominating on the ground, which is been crazy to see. And Tyler Algier has started eating into his work, but he hasn't been very effective, so I'm not too worried about it. It did seem though like they wanted to use Damian Williams, but then he's on the IR now, so there's nothing to really worry about, at least for a couple weeks. I do think as the season goes on, he's gonna kind of slow down, just given his age and how long he's been around, and with more running backs coming back. So I would try to sell him personally if I have him, but don't sell him for nothing. He's still going to be valuable regardless, but there's just no way he's going to produce at the same level that he's producing at right now. After Patterson, I'm I'm going to have Antonio Gibson, who he struggled last week, kind of saved his day with a touchdown. We've also seen his targets go down every single week. JD McKissick is now back to getting all of the passing work, so his upside is a little bit taken away. To play the Dallas Cowboys, which I'm not too worried about that matchup, but it's also not like a smash matchup, pretty middle of the road. Now, if they're in the red zone and they're on the goal line, he's going to get that opportunity, but he's not going to get much work in the passing game anymore. So you're really hoping for a touchdown with him. Now, there's going to be opportunities, but I don't know how many that's going to be, so I'm starting to get more worried about him. Also, Brian Robinson is actually going to be coming back pretty soon, so it could be the last days of Antonio Gibson being ranked up here. And the last guy I have ranked in this tier at my running back 20 is AJ Dillon. Pretty much the same things that I said with Aaron Jones. They should have a bounce back week against New England, and there's a decent chance since Mac Jones is going to be out that they're going to be up by a decent amount, and if they're up, they could just have AJ Dillon run the ball out. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good week. Regardless, you're probably starting both of these guys. The offense kind of goes through them, so I feel pretty confident about it. Now, the first guy in my last tier who I have ranked in my running back 21 is going to be Miles Sanders. He is the clear lead back in this offense, but Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott are both being utilized, and Jalen Hurts steals touchdowns on the goal line, and Miles Sanders isn't used a ton in the passing game, so you really need Miles Sanders to score a touchdown, and there's not a ton of opportunity for him to do that, but he's still a really good running back. This is a fantastic offense, and he is a clear lead back in it. They're playing Jacksonville, which is a much improved defense. They're a solid defense, it seems like. I think this week we'll get a much better idea of how good they are, and I think Miles Sanders could be fine, but I'm not too excited about starting him. Ranked next, I'm going to have Dameon Pierce, who he has coming out party last week. It was pretty awesome to see 20 rushes for 80 yards and a touchdown. Now, he's not really getting any of the third down work or the 2-minute work. Not a lot of opportunity for him to catch passes, and we really need him to score to be valuable, so there's definitely worry there. And the offense isn't very great, so not a lot of things that add up for him. For him to really be like an elite running back, he would have to get all the work like James Robinson 2 years ago, and that doesn't seem to be the case, at least not right now. Rex Burkhead is still getting all of that work. Besides that, I mean, Dameon Pierce has become the clear lead back there, and they're playing the LA Chargers, who have been really bad against the running backs so far this year, so I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity, and if they can get in the red zone, he will have a chance to score. But I think regardless, he's going to be fine for fantasy, and if he can get in the end zone, it's going to be a good day for him. Up next, my running back 23, I'm going to have Kareem Hunt. Like I talked about with Nick Chubb going up against the Atlanta Falcons, I think it should be pretty good for the running backs since the entire offense kind of operates through them. Although in these closer games, I think that Nick Chubb is going to be more valuable, whereas in games where they're kind of farther behind and they need to catch up, I think Kareem Hunt will be more valuable, and the Browns are favored by 1.5 points in this game, so who knows where it really go, but regardless, Vegas thinks it's going to be a close game, so I think it'll probably be a close game too, and those situations are probably going to be better for Nick Chubb, but Kareem Hunt is still part of this offense and is still good enough where he'll be valuable and he's going to get some receptions, so he has a good floor and always has an upside to score touchdowns just given how good he is. Just given that he's not the clear lead back here, it's hard to rank him any higher, but still should probably be in your lineup. After him, at my running back 24, I'm going to have Jeff Wilson, who normally would probably be ranked higher when Elijah Mitchell is out. He looks really good last week. The offense overall just has not looked very good, and they're playing the Los Angeles Rams, which has one of the best run defenses in the NFL this year, so I'm definitely worried about him this week. But the Niners have overcome some tough defenses. They got a great run scheme, and Jeff Wilson is getting basically all the work in that offense, so I think there's a good chance that he'll be fine, but I'm definitely going to temper my expectations just a little bit. I'm hoping that the offense will look better, and if that's the case, then we can rank him higher going forward, but for right now, I just got to rank him right here, my running back 24. And my last guy being talked about, my running back 25, is Ezekiel Elliott. He still seems to be pretty much the lead back in Dallas, but Tony Pollard is obviously getting work every single week, but if they have a chance to score, then Zeke is probably going to be that goal line back. We finally saw him score this past week, and Cooper Rush looked pretty solid. Basically showed that he can put up numbers against those bad defenses, and they're playing the Washington Commanders, which have a really bad defense, so I think there might be some more scoring opportunity for Zeke this week, but if he doesn't get in the end zone, you're probably going to be disappointed, so not super excited about starting him, but this is where I have him ranked this week. Now, some other guys I didn't talk about, probably the next guy ranked would be Breece Hall. He's been getting a lot more work, first time out snapping Michael Carter, and he's been getting so much receiving work. I'm just worried about Zach Wilson because he's probably going to be starting back this week, and we don't know what that offense will look like and how he'll work with all these different weapons. So I really want to see that in the field before I put a lot more faith into him. Devin Singletary also right outside of these rankings. He could easily be ranked here. So if you want to start either of those two guys over kind of almost anyone in this tier, wouldn't be upset about it. If you have questions about it, just like leave them in the comments. I can get back to you guys. I definitely don't want to start CEH this week. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we saw what they did to AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. So CEH, somebody who's only getting like 10 to 12 opportunities a game, not really someone I want a part of this week. And Josh Jacobs is another person who you could start. I probably got him behind Breece and Devin Singletary, but above CEH. He just needs to get in the end zone for him to be good, and the offense has been pretty hit or miss. I mean, they're the only 0-3 team, so it's really hard to know what is going to go on there. Anyways, though, here are my top 25 rankings. Let me know what you guys think about them. If you got any questions, leave them down below in the comments. I can get back to you as soon as I can. Wide receiver rankings will be coming out very shortly after this, so stay tuned for those, and I'll see y'all there. Later.